Here we go. So welcome aboard, everyone. We are in our course KMGN of KMGN 2026 from strategy through change management to business impact. And today we are hosting Rudolf, who you all know as one of my teammates together with Vincent in building this course. However, Rudolf has some credible KM history, and I'll say not only history but also present and future. So first of all, Rudolf is known, I think, to many of you, as the person that demonstrated how KM can really make a change also in companies that didn't think that KM is important and essential to their company. And I think that one of the things that prove it is not only me saying, but all the Mike Awards he has received on this journey. Today, he manages a company named as InnerWin Consultancy. And I say that along the years that we know each other, that is already 7 years, we also turned to be friends. So he's a pleasant man, a nice man, not only a professional, one of the best. So Rudolf, you will today be leading us when we will be speaking about the culture. And if last week we spoke mainly in the level of the individuals, we will ask you today to speak about the environments that support KM, that help it move towards its target business impact. Please, Rodolphe, you can share your screen. The stage is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Moria, for that generous introduction. I have started to share my slides. Are they visible?
Of course.
Yes, great. And what I'd like to request everyone is that feel free to step in anytime that you have any clarifications or you want to, make a comment. I am pretty comfortable with that. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is based on my personal experience. And sorry, something's. Is the screen getting disturbed? Or it's still okay? Okay, it's fine. Yeah, so what I will be, so a lot is based on my experience. And I was on a short break last week. I went to Goa. Goa, people know, is a very nice seaside resort. And actually, there I got stoned. Now, Vincent and Moria know the context. So I won't say more about that. But let me just get on with what we are here today. We are talking about working environments that support knowledge management. And so far, during this entire course, what we have covered is strategy, change management, and now I'm wrapping up on culture. So it started with Arthur Shelley, then with Vincent, and we'll be talking about culture. But honestly, culture underpins everything. It is just that in this course, we have had to put it somewhere. So we have put it after the strategy and the change management. But we need to understand that culture is something that underpins whatever we do. All the small actions that people take, all the experiences that people have, and how they react, how they behave together forms culture. And over the last, so in fact, this is what Gaping Void says. I follow Gaping Void Culture Design Group. I think they are the best in the world as far as culture is concerned. They say you create culture like you create art, small moves, and lots of them. So if you have not heard of Gaping Void, please go and check them out. They are the best after VARM. Anyone has heard of VARM? Okay, VAR is Vincent, Arthur, Rudolph, and Moria. So that's a little this thing context in which we'll be speaking. Now, last week, Vincent shocked us when he spoke about the strategies and the ways of hiding knowledge. he spoke about the different ways in which, but he spoke a lot about individuals. So either they play dumb, they rationalize their hiding, they become evasive. He also brought about a good point, talking about how possibly there are positive effects of, hiding knowledge at times. But what he has done is a lot on the individual level. What Arthur did was talk about at the team level and at the enterprise level. Today, we are going to move a lot into, I'm going to talk about department or even business unit in terms of creating the working environments. Now, if you recall this slide that was presented last week, it's talked about getting the mix right. It says 70% is about people, 20% is about process, 10% is about technology. I'm a firm believer that yes, people are important, but processes are also critical. If you have the right processes, it nudges people's actions. Now, this study was carried out way back in the year 2000. Maybe it is the right time for another study to be carried out using the same methodologies to check what is really the mix. To my knowledge, Maury and I were discussing, we felt that 50% effort should be on people, 25% on process, 25% on technology, especially because AI technology is coming in. So we need to understand that actually you need to have the right mix. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is based on people. I'm a firm believer that it has to be people. But for me, driving culture is a lot about having the right processes that then create the desired behaviors. And this was also brought out by Arthur when he spoke about the characteristics of a sharing culture. He said, how do you lead the people through effective processes? That's on the very first line. Lead the people through effective processes. You engage in conversations. You prioritize projects. You facilitate people to focus on appropriate resources. You simulate exchange and challenges and leverages. So Arthur spoke a lot about not only at the individual level, but also at the team level. And it is about processes and the environment. So taking this forward, I want to tell you that while Vincent's focused a lot on the culture of hiding and hoarding, hoarding is a deliberate attempt. Through my career, I want to share with you something pretty shocking. You might find this shocking, but I want to tell you that actually there are three kinds of environments that exist in an organization. I've used the symbolism of the signals, the red, orange, and green. Red is, so it's actually in an organization with a whole continuum of environments, some ranging from hostile to conducive to being evangelist, to being your promoter, basically being your promoter. And these are some of the environments that I have faced, and therefore I am bringing it forward to you. So in an organization, I have faced times when people have told me very clearly, please don't enter into my department or don't enter into my project. We do not believe in knowledge management. We are busy with other things. Or passive aggression saying that please come later. Now, please understand when I'm talking about, sometimes people are busy. It is year ending. Or they have a new processes that they have to implement. ISO has come out, etc. and so on. They're busy. But if people keep you away for 3 years, understand that you are facing a hostile environment. Then the next environment is conducive environment. They're very supportive. They're very compliant. Okay, whatever you say, how many people do you want? Or you want knowledge ambassadors? Okay, I cannot give you Rudolph, but I can give you so and so. I cannot do this. I can give you that. So they are supportive, but may not be your evangelists. The evangelists are people who continuously encourage you and talk about knowledge management. I'm very happy when I started my career, I joined an organization where the managing director himself at every meeting, if he found an interesting story, he would then tell everyone, have you put it on the KM portal? Or he would call me up from wherever, whichever part of the country he was in, and say, "Hey, Rudolph, I've got this interesting incident. Can you ensure that knowledge management captures it? And after 1 month, inform my secretary, I would like to review it." Now, those are your evangelists, So can we create that culture of having evangelists across the organization? Okay. Now, traffic signal has its limitations because it cannot be simultaneously red, orange, and green. So I'm abandoning the signal, but I'm going to keep the colors for us. We are now talking of environment. So let's shift to environment and let's change it a little bit. I call it a barren environment or a fertile environment or a plentiful environment. A barren environment is, I mentioned they're hostile, a barren environment. And remember your environments in an organization, there are multiple departments, multiple functions, etc. I'm not talking of individuals here. I'm talking of departments, I'm talking of functions. You will find some functions are very gung-ho about knowledge management. Come, let's do this, etc. and so on. They are your evangelists. So it's a bountiful or a plentiful environment. The others are compliant. They are actually fertile environments for you to work and make them into a plentiful environment. And then you have the barren environment. Now, all this stems from the leader. So the first point on top, you see, it's the insecurity of the leader actually that is causing you the environment within their department. Even they may not realize it, but it becomes evident when you're kept out for a considerable period of time, a year, year and a half, or 2 years, you realize, yes, this is something that I need to do, something I need to work on. People within the department will maybe conducive, etc. But they are, yes, Moria.
No, finish the sentence and then there's a question.
Yeah. So people are conducive. So the first thing is it depends on the leader, what the leader is. He sets the tone for his department. Yes, Moria.
Wonderful. There's someone asking here about the 10%, the hostile ones, stating that they are not only 10%, they are very, very problematic and cause more than 70% of the problem. So if you can explain what you think about, and it's not instead of your message now saying, look at the leader. Please continue.
Yes. So actually, I don't know where that 10% came from. Maybe I have said it 10%, but I'm saying part of the organization could be hostile. Maybe in your organization, you're facing 70% that yes, there is a hostile. So, and please understand when I say hostile, it's a barren environment. Okay, so I'm abandoning the word hostile, putting a barren environment because we're talking about environments out here. It stems from the leader. So there is an issue because people follow the leader and see what do they want. So there are some statements that they'll give, come later, we are busy with this. Okay, or they'll say, no, we are not interested. It does not. So you'll find actually languages that they use is that in terms of, I don't believe in knowledge management, or it has not helped me. My people are not happy with knowledge management. They've never experienced it, and yet they will make these statements. Okay, so how do we get over this? We will come to strategies in a short time. Okay, but it stems from the leader. It may or may not be 70%. How do you break it down is something that we will discover as we go forward. I hope to some extent I've kept you waiting for answers. Whoever's written the question, if you could enlighten me a little bit more. Or shall I proceed?
I think, Alexander, do you want to add anything?
No. It was a comment I made because, generally speaking, you have more problem with the hostile people than with the amicable people. Of course, who will support, will be fertile, and give you a lot of support. But 10% can be really toxic in an organization.
Yes, that's right. And so that is something that we are going to discuss. How do we overcome these? So if you've understood barren environments, fertile environments is potential. They are supportive. Do you want to do this activity? Yes, come and do it. They may not plan it out with you in advance, but when you want to do it, they will say, please come and do it. So I call them passive compliance. Whereas the evangelists are the ones who call you proactively, hey, we're having this wonderful activity. Why don't you come and document it? Or we're having this challenge. Why don't you talk to the knowledge ambassadors and see that they're capturing it well and share it with us later? So these are the three type of environments. So I think at this stage, we need to understand that you need to move from a barren environment to a fertile environment. And from fertile, can you make them into a plentiful environment? So this is really where we need to keep moving the departments or moving the leaders. Okay. So shall we do a quick 10-minute Miro board exercise?
Okay,
So my
I'm
question,
now sharing the Miro board
yeah, in the chat. Okay.
in the
So the
chat.
question that, yeah,
Yes.
the question that you'll see when you go to the Miro board, please go to the session 18. It has been set up for
It's
you.
open. The link is to 18 exactly. Not to the
Okay,
board,
great.
but to the specific
Right.
frame.
Thank you, Maureen. And the question is, discuss among yourselves, but please write it down. I'd like to see what are the tactics you have used to move from barren to fertile, or from fertile to plentiful. And how have you maintained a plentiful environment? Okay, and the colors of the three post-its, your sticky stack, what they have, red represents a barren environment, orange represents a fertile environment, green represents a plentiful environment. You have 10 minutes. So how have you moved from a barren to a fertile environment? What are the tactics that you use? Or from a fertile to a plentiful? And if it's been a plentiful environment, okay, what are some of the things that you've done to maintain it? Okay, so are there any questions, or shall we straightaway get into our breakout rooms?
Let's work. Resume the recording. 20 seconds, please. Rudolf, please reflect. First of all, we cannot hear you. Not yet.
Yes, now you'll be able to hear me. I was really
yes, but I
thrilled when
see
I
that
saw.
I see that yet not everyone has joined us. So let's count to 10. Where did we lose them? Just let me see what's happening.
Yes.
Here they come. Please, you may continue.
Okay. I think you have done, I mean, you really added so much of value to this, because, I found that whether it was, let me talk to Green, I've taken screenshots and I've pasted it out here. So one thing what you said about when you're in the green, now I'm not sure whether you're reading somebody's used the wrong color, etc. But a lot was spoken about stakeholder analysis. Okay, then identifying KOLs. What is KOLs? What is the full form of KOLs? I don't know. Okay. Avoid wasting time on people who are already, your evangelists. Okay? Those who are in the red, one of the few things, I mean, some of the points that came out, rewards and recognitions. Another person said, do nothing. And I'm going to show you that's a good strategy also, that you can do nothing. And somebody else said, collect proof from other environments to show successes. Okay. Give them a lot of examples. So there were a lot of ideas that came around. Would anyone like to share in terms of the orange that is moving from fertile to plentiful? Many ideas, nice ideas came about, amplifying their stories, create healthy competition, rewards and recognition, focus on areas that can be successful, do more activities, and that was something that we are going to talk about all these. I think a lot of ideas have come from here, a recognition from the leader. So fantastic ideas. Anyone you would like to share their thoughts, what they had, discussions that they had? Fair enough. I think we'll, yes, Tracy, you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to speak if no one was going to speak up.
Yeah.
But no, I think, we worked in the orange team, so team number 3. And I think Alexandra was talking about a scenario where it was quite difficult and Sandra, happy for you to jump in, but quite difficult to get response from, a team. So that's where we were like, okay, he just literally did nothing. And then I think the focus changes, right? You find those people that are doing that, are the evangelists and are willing to work with you. And I think it's grabbing some of the successes that they do to celebrate, to actually make the people that aren't on board, and they start to get FOMO and jealous, right? That they're missing out on something, and then hopefully bring them around.
Yeah, that's a very good strategy. So you get the others to work on the evangelists. You don't work yourselves, get the evangelists also to work on them. Quick share from anyone, 1 minute more. Because this is something that you're facing in your environment. So now's your time to, maybe ask or tell us about how you've overcome.
I think I was sharing in the group that I think like avoiding the word knowledge management as much as possible, probably when talking about your goals and shared goals. I think when we sometimes introduce our efforts as KM efforts and stuff like that, it gets kind of lost in the cause. So just trying to share it as like an improvement for each person, and then maybe bucket it under KM goals for yourself, but like not necessarily to just only keep that branding only. But just to be flexible.
Very nice idea. Sure, very nice idea, because I am always a believer that knowledge management has to contribute to business results. And what happens with knowledge management is people believe that it's all about capture and store, and so they don't realize actually it's a lubricant. Knowledge is the resource that lubricates the entire machine. So if you can show how you're giving benefit to them in their business results, I think that would be a far superior strategy than talking about knowledge management. And like you pointed out, it is actually helping you in the process. So all these characteristics, what Arthur spoke about on creating the culture through the processes, you all have also brought out a number of these, and this is a good exercise that we have done. Okay, so how do you create the environment to move from a barren to a fertile and to a plentiful environment? So let me take you through some of the things. You all have already said it, but I'll tell you about how my experience has shown and what we could do about it. So when somebody spoke about stakeholder mapping and understanding the needs, this is something that I used to religiously do, is that I used to have a cue sheet at the beginning of the year before the next financial year, but towards the end of the financial year, when we're planning the next financial year, I used to take an appointment with every senior leader for 1 hour. I would not take 1 hour. They'll never give you 1 hour of time and say, I'd like to meet you over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And normally people never say no to that request. And I would like to discuss what we plan for next year. And so I have a set of questions that are jotted down and talk to them first about how did we fare last year, what we had discussed, how did we fare, where could we do better, so that's what we keep discussing. And the two important questions is that what are your business challenges or business goals, or what are the challenging areas for next year that you're looking at, and how can we participate in it? And we also then see commitments on specific commitments that, we need to improve the knowledge ambassadors, or we need to improve the process to capture lessons learned, or we need to have more expert sessions, so this is the commitment. But you normally sit down with the leader at the beginning of before the beginning of the next financial year, and we work this out. So this is called a cue sheet. The spelling is actually CUE, but it looks good as a cue sheet. Okay, I'm sure some of you would be following this process. Secondly, a much bigger exercise. I told you that the organization is a complex web. And here we are looking at departments, functions, etc. So while a particular BU, the leaders supporting you, there could be within their BU certain functions that are not supporting you. So this is a mapping exercise that you need to do, is that understand for each BU which departments are there and which department is actually fertile, which department is plentiful, and which department is barren. So this is an exercise that diligently, if it is carried out, it helps you to have specific strategies for each, and therefore you then become more successful because then knowledge management penetrates further into the organization. Okay, so, and you don't have to do too many, look at new metrics to measure this. Look at first, what are the activities that you're supposed to do? How have they fared compared to the rest? Okay, so you have some benchmark on which to carry it out. Have they been proactive? Have they been receptive? Or have they been hostile? So this is something that you will be able to map out and then identify into these boxes. You don't need to go on emotions. This leader always praises us. If you actually look at the data, you'll find there are some there. That's a passive aggressive way that, oh, yeah, I'm just very busy with this. You come back in the month of March and we will do it definitely. So you feel good about it, but actually there's no progress being made. So they actually fall into the red box. So don't go by the emotions, just go by what the data tells you. Then you create your BU-wise or department-wise strategies, how you're going to tackle it. And some of the tactics you all have spoken about in the Miro board exercise, which we'll also take up as we go forward. The caution is that when you're in a plentiful environment, when you won the Mike Award, etc., this is the slippery environment. Complacency tends to set in, the stifling of innovation because we keep doing more of the same. So I like what somebody had said in the green box in the Miro board exercise, is that start to integrate knowledge management into their workflows, get them to do new ideas, get new ideas from them, interview them on tacit knowledge, how they capture tacit knowledge. So, and celebrate successes. So I think that we're on the right track. A knowledge manager can never be satisfied. You need to always be mindful. What's next? What am I doing good? What can I do better? Never sit on your laurels, because that's when you'll start slipping down. Remember, knowledge is dynamic and constantly lubricates the organization. So we need to start looking, what are the critical knowledge that's why your cue sheet is so important. Meeting the business leader at the beginning of the year, what is it that you all are getting into? Because that's where the knowledge is going to get generated and where we need to be working with them. So one technique we all have already mentioned is that amplify what people are doing, increase the number of activities. This is in the fertile, increase the number of activities. So I like what we had done at AFCONS. We created activities, processes for the learn before, learn during, learn after model that was pioneered by British Petroleum. So we had so many activities that the projects had to then actually carry out these activities. And like I mentioned before, I'm a firm believer that processes nudge the right behaviors. And slowly the behaviors get reinforced and that becomes the culture of the organization. So work out an annual calendar of activities, map it to the business. Maybe you need to start with expert sessions. This is the easiest, the low-hanging fruits. People are very happy to share, create master classes and do master classes, etc. So these are some of the things that we need to be looking at. Okay. Then the other thing, use ISO. Moria had presented in session 6 about ISO being a compass to excellence. Now, many people think ISO only as a process model. ISO has two parts. One is the process and the other is the environment of creating the culture. You need to use that. When we started out in knowledge management in this particular construction company, they had to get ISO certification because they were now going to go abroad and work. And one of the clauses in the ISO 14,001 was, the last clause was that, how do you use knowledge? Using knowledge to improve your business processes. We used to use that and go and meet projects and say, no, as part of the ISO process, we have to implement knowledge processes, and so for people who were hostile, we started using this tactic. So ISO is an excellent document and a process that can be used to move one environment to the next. Other thing, must leverage emotions. The organization is actually a bundle of emotions. There are many different emotions: pride and shame, the feeling of being missing out, the feeling of belongingness, the feeling of competition. I want to do better than the others. Am I with them? So this is something that we need to look at. Gaping Void has a lovely cartoon that they have put out. I call it a cartoon. I do not know what it is, but any other word to use. So they say belonging is an essential human need and tied to organizational outcomes. Please remember this slide. It's a very important one. So there was this SME and he was refusing to share. Everyone knew he was an expert and everyone was keen to know what he could share. One, I've had it in two different organizations. One was a marketing guru and the other was a guru in bridges. So what we did is that, especially when it came to bridges, we started running master classes every month, and we had this month is going to be focused on roads. This month is going to be on bridges. This month is going to be on tunnels, etc. So bridges came in between, and we had people asking questions. So before with the master class, 30 days we'll declare it. You have 15 days in which to ask questions. So people then badgered him with a lot of questions. And because it had been announced that it is going to be a masterclass on bridges, he was naturally the leader who was going to lead it. And so he had to lead it. And then later on, he had to. So it broke his also resistance. And then he started sharing with a lot of people. And that was a way in which we moved the environment from that particular department.
I want to add a comment.
Yes.
I think we have different strategies when we have less than a critical mass and when we already have a critical mass. Because what you are suggesting is that when we have a critical mass, we use the social pressure or the social impact on the small teams or on the individuals that are leaders in order to make them change. That's one of our nudge. When we spoke about change management a few weeks ago, and we spoke about the nudge techniques, we spoke about the social impact. And I think that that's what you're giving an example now. And it is relevant when we have already the critical mass. Before before it won't be effective.
True, Maurya. So as I go to the next few slides, you'll understand that where it could actually fit in. And how people react and how people then respond as they go forward. You'll see that how there are different techniques. So this is one of the techniques that I'm talking of. The other is when a full BU, there was a particular project that kept delaying, etc. So you have to remember when we talk of projects, the minimum time frame for a project is 3 years. And at the end of 2 years, they come back and tell you that, next year we'll see, but by then all the knowledge will have vanished, So the power of stories, so this is something that we learned over time. Even if the leader is not willing, we say, look, you're going to do it later. So we will help you in the process. We will just write down all the key points and we will start visiting their project with their permission. And what we do, we'll collect stories. And from stories, we'll then create a dummy journal and we would send it back to them. And we would send it also to the BU head or to the person whom he was reporting to, but perhaps the director, and saying that fantastic work is happening in this particular project. Right now, they don't have time to document it, but we have just created the base on which you can then work forward. And, then when people see that already half the work is done, they are then more inclined to say, okay, why don't you just come in and complete the work? Okay, or they'll get pressure from the director saying that you need to work this out because we will lose good knowledge. So we used to collect a lot of stories. Some of the stories we'll then circulate and talk about the heroes, what work they have done, etc., and all as if we are and recognize them. So one of you had mentioned about rewards and recognition from a senior leader, from the top leader, etc. So all these tactics come into play as we go forward. Okay, so this is the other, collecting stories. You need to constantly collect stories that you can use, share, etc., and all that, so that then it comes back but give the rightful dues to the particular department. Even if they're hostile, it will break down their hostility. Using gamification, gamification is sometimes very misunderstood. People think that it's manipulation, but gamification is actually about nudging behaviors, I use a lot of gamification when I want to change the entire atmosphere or the environment in an organization. In AFCONS, when I was working, we had come out with a point system for all the activities. And the very first year when we ran it, we offered trophies. We found that people did 3,500. The first year, it was 1,800 points. 800 points and 500 points that people were being rewarded for. The second year, it went to 3,500 points and 1,500, etc. But actually, the real power came when we announced Mission 10,000. We noticed that we realized that every project could actually achieve 10,000 points very easily if they just did the basic activities. When we announced Mission 10,000, that you have to achieve Mission 10,000, it became a mission for people. They recognized it. The management got into it and said, okay, every at the annual get together of the top leadership, we will be giving the Mission 10,000 awards. And that is when really knowledge management took off and it became embedded in their processes. So gamification, if it's got serious objectives, can actually help you to overcome resistances. And we use it very effectively. One particular BU, we were constantly being stonewalled. So when we came into the 4th year or the 5th year, we announced that we are not going to include this particular BU in the Mission 10,000 because they're very busy with the execution of projects. So they will not be participating this year. And the BU head then spoke up and said, no, we will be participating. And then they participated, so you need to actually use psychology. You need to play on emotions in order to move forward and change the environment. And lastly, I'd like to talk a lot about a bit about artificial intelligence. We see 70% in that particular model, 70% people, 20% on process, 10% on technology. The equation has changed. It's 50%, 25, 25. AI is actually going to be a very big driver because what AI does is, first of all, it takes away all the hard work that you do. I remember lessons learned. We would actually go attend, document it, then correct it, send it for editing, etc. Remove the friction. AI can help you in these mundane processes. It accurately documents, it can actually summarize, and then you can quickly get it ratified. Secondly, finding data is very easy. Using AI, you can actually find data very quickly. It can pull data for you, summarize, etc. Okay, so these are some of the ways in which AI can actually be helpful. And AI can actually then work out in helping in terms of the business processes. Okay, it can actually be embedded in the flow of work, capturing tacit knowledge quickly, identifying mission critical knowledge that is being generated. So AI is actually going to be a part and parcel of how we change the environments from being fertile into being plentiful, or from being barren, because people say that it's going to be my people's efforts, but here you are putting technology to actually help them reduce the frictions, etc. So AI is going to be one of the few drivers. Maurya, would you like to add something on this?
Oh, there's so much to be said, but next week I have a full session on this, so I'll wait. I'll be patient.
Great.
And I promise to add.
Fantastic. So just to summarize what we have, this culture is all about people, and it is not about big campaigns that you do. It is the small things that all add up towards the right behaviors of people. And when there is cohesion in the organization about what you need to do in what situations, etc., that really becomes the culture of the organization. Remember, the organization is also a conglomeration of emotions. Harness the emotions well. Okay, we need to understand that people want a sense of belonging. Harness it in the right way. Okay, sometimes you have to be a bit harsh, but I think that is okay in the long run as we move forward. As long as it is not used as a tool of harassment, you can work with people's emotions in a positive manner. And right processes nudge the desired behaviors. If you get the culture right, the rest will take care of itself. Questions?
I have a question, Rudolph.
Yes.
Do you have, I mean, in that slide, you just said get the culture right and the rest will follow. Do you have some suggestions on where to start with regards to culture if you want to make changes?
Yeah. So some of the things that I do believe in and I have practiced is that I do a lot of activities, and somebody had mentioned that. So creating multiple, because people will say, oh, this is too difficult for me, or, they will say that this doesn't work in our organization, this doesn't work for me. So create multiple ways on which people can work, maybe through communities, maybe through master classes, maybe through brainstorming sessions, so create multiple formats for people to actually work. And something, you've got people have different ways in which they work. What is it that works for somebody that will kickstart them? That is something that you need to look at. So I am a firm believer that you need to do a lot of activities. I'm very lucky in the first organization where I worked. The Knowledge Olympics was something that really created, the entire this thing for me. When the Olympic Games was announced, I somehow felt we could do a Knowledge Olympics coinciding with the Olympic Games. Now the World Cup football is coming. Can you look at something around football, getting people to form teams around a particular theme, do something. So these are activities, because there's a lot of resonance that will happen. After the Champions Cup is over, now you're going to see the newspapers are going to talk about the World Cup football. So can you create resonance with something that is outside? Don't look only internally. I don't know if I'm making sense, Tracy, but these are some of the things that, I always believe: processes, activities, engaging of people. These are things that actually kickstart. And second is share success stories. The moment you share something, others want to then share their stories. I remember at AFCONS, we started something called AFCONS Heroes, because we're not making a breakthrough immediately. So we started finding stories and we started creating AFCONS Heroes, and we started sharing it across. And immediately somebody would call, hey, I've got this wonderful story about so and so. So can we, can I work with you on that, And so this kickstarted an entire process. Look carefully, something will work somewhere. Check it out.
Thank you. Would you even say that you don't necessarily have to create an activity around something directly related to knowledge? It might even be just connecting people in the first instance and creating those relationships.
Exactly.
Which will help in the long
trust,
run.
yes. When you create trust, what happens is that then people are more open to, saying that, okay, I have this difficulty, I have that difficulty. Also understanding the difficulty. When people say that, we don't have time, sit down and understand, okay, what is it that really you need to be doing in order to help them? We used to actually write the lessons learned. Although we were not engineers, we would sit down, we would write the entire process, we would take the work of them. Then when they found that we were so sincere, they said, okay, I need to help you.
Okay. Yes, Jana wanted to ask something.
Hi again. Thank you, Rudy, for the very informative discussion. I wanted to follow through what Tracy was saying, because like it's really relevant to make trust happen. And I love what you said about emotions in the organization. And I asked all of my questions there. It's one thing to know the pulse, it's one thing to know what tactics to use. But then at the end of the day, it's the follow up. I wanted to know, how do you follow up these tactics or activities most effectively? And then, did you work with your communications team with this? How would you promote them? And what about the timing? So, there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So a lot of things, what we did was actually stories. If you really see, what started out was actually collecting stories, but stories that mattered to other people and to the business, etc. And then we would circulate it. Now, in India, it's a little different. We don't have a communications team. You have to do the communications yourself. Slowly, organizations are growing. You have a communications team. But normally, it is the knowledge management team that actually looks at communications. I always believe that along with knowledge management and the basically KM processes and technology, you need to have a communications experts within your team who are able to break down things into the language that people understand and is emotive and brings in more. So when we created Afcon's hero stories, we created project journals, we started creating knowledge digests. Slowly, the people started contributing, and that broke a lot of mentality and created the environment which actually led to Afcons slowly growing in and became a giant in the implementation of knowledge management. It is a slow process, but you need to keep probing, and seeing what works. It's hard work, let me tell you. It is not easy.
It is, but thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone is applauding, and I think now is time to thank you, Rudolf. Every time I hear Rudolf speak, I learn something new. So thank you. We are shifting. First of all, we are ending this cluster of sessions that are speaking about culture, not because we don't have what to say about it. We can speak about it sessions over sessions over sessions, and it will not be enough. But it was important when we're speaking about the strategy, about the change management, to add in some new ideas on how to cultivate the culture and the environment. So that ends this cluster, this series of sessions. Next week, we will be starting to speak about technology and the future. We are shifting the ordering because we had a request from one of the sessions to exchange. So I will be speaking next week about AI in the KM game. Now, I won't go showing you how to use generative AI or how to do things that you know already to do. I'm going to speak about tomorrow, about where we're going, about what we can do today, so that tomorrow we will be in a better place with our KM strategy and with our KM implementation. So I'll take it 2 steps into the future. So bear with me and come also next week. Bye all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.